a bombshell report to share with you. A famous lawyer was soliciting money to pay women making sexual misconduct allegations against candidate Donald Trump during the 2016 campaign. Getting paid to accuse the candidate? You don't think that's an incentive to fabricate stories? We're going to discuss it all with Alan Dershowitz. I'll also talk to White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders about the constant barrage of media attacks, some against her personally and the president. But first, the Democrats' Me Too suicide mission. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Okay, do you remember what I told you just a few nights ago? Female politicians and activists should also be really careful where they take this, because someday, maybe, men might decide to turn the tables on them and start launching their own, maybe it's called #MenToo movement, with wild, decades-old complaints against women in positions of power. You don't think it could happen? Just watch. Well, that didn't take long, did it? The first casualty is Andrea Ramsey, a Democrat running for Congress in Kansas. She's dropping out of the race after the Kansas City Star asked her about accusations in a 12-year-old lawsuit. The suit claimed Ramsey sexually harassed and retaliated against a male subordinate who had rejected her advances. According to multiple sources, the man who filed the case reached a settlement with the company, and court documents show that the case was dismissed after mediation back in 2006. Look, people settle suits all the time. They settle them for things that aren't true as well because they're just a nuisance and they'd rather not bother them. But drop out of the race more than a decade later for this? I think that's ridiculous. But this is the climate that Democrats have created. It is a trap that they themselves are now falling into. And believe me, I probably agree with that candidate on nothing. She's a favorite of Emily's list. I'm sure she and I wouldn't agree on most issues, but I think that situation is appalling. Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the new liberal morality brigade on Capitol Hill they're feeding on their own members. They've opened up an ethics probe into a Nevada Democratic Congressman, Reuben Kuhn, over allegations of sexual harassment. Now, Pelosi and others have asked Kuhn to step down, but he's refusing. He vows to clear his name. Again, another Democrat, and the witch hunt continues. And he questions Pelosi's newfound Me Too morality. Now, why does he do that? Kuhn says that Pelosi and the Democratic Party knew about the allegations against him a year ago. He said they looked into them, they didn't find anything, and they continued investing millions in my campaign. He told that to ABC News. They went out there and they campaigned for me. Well, we invited him on the show tonight, but sadly, he declined. My friends, this Me Too madness is spinning dangerously out of control. And I think the people get it. Here are some of my listeners today on the radio.
I definitely think that this has gone to the extreme, and they have to do something to stop this.
I'm very sensitive to any type of sexual assault, but I feel that this hashtag this and hashtag that has become almost a fad.
From personal experience, people who have been really abused, sexually abused, are so upset about this movement, the Me Too movement, simply because they're making a joke out of the real people who've really been abused.
By the way, the phone lines today were jammed with female callers. Now, speaking of jokes, now Democrats are calling for the president to resign over misconduct allegations, you know, the ones you heard before the 2016 election. But as the Washington Post pointed out this morning, the Democrats may be overplaying their hand ahead of 2018 and 2020. This is the way I look at it. The left, in their blind rage against Trump, are unable to see the obvious. Their near constant demonization of Trump is starting to wear a little thin, and I think it could end up backfiring big time. Think about it. After tax reform is passed, the economy continues to grow, and more Americans are able to keep more of their own money. How much resonance will old accusations, partisan leaks, and identity politics really end up having? Will voters other than like the really hardcore activists in the donor class really have the appetite for the growing calls of Trump's resignation on these old allegations? Smack dab in the middle of one of the greatest economic booms we've seen perhaps since Reagan? Now, I doubt it. especially now that we're learning that women were being offered cash to tell their tales of alleged misconduct by Trump. What a crock this entire thing is. And and this small, I call it like this small craft advisory goes out to everybody in the media. Watch the current course you've charted, lest your own boats get swamped by the waves you create. Your reporting on the so-called Russian collusion has been as biased and misguided as the Mueller investigation itself. You need to offer more than 24/7 demonization of our president through leaks from Obama and Clinton partisans or from old accusers whose stories were already heard before Election Day. Are you ever going to do real reporting on how the president is reshaping our entire trade posture to boost U.S. manufacturing? Or maybe look into how small business optimism is skyrocketing due to the president's slashing of onerous, growth-killing regulations? And by the way, I have another question. Why does it take a group like Judicial Watch to beat so many of you in the media to stories about the Mueller investigation? You know, where are your FOIA requests? Or maybe only dig deep when it can hurt the president. I don't know. And since it looks like they've got nothing on the president and the war on men is already backfiring, expect them to deploy even more desperate tactics in the new year. And that's the angle.